Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Kate. I'm an integrative relational psychotherapist, a life coach, a yoga instructor, and an author. I specialize in narcissists and borderlines, but of course I work with other clients as well. So if you would like to schedule an online session with me, you can find all of the relevant information on my webpage. Now, moving on to the subject of today's video, which will be narcissists yet again, because they are one of my favorite topics. But I will try to approach the issue from a slightly different angle today, because the purpose of today's video is to help you, the partner, the friend, the colleague of a narcissist, to better understand where your narcissist is coming from. And hopefully, after watching this video, you will gain a better understanding of and a better insight into your narcissist's cognition, behavior, and experiencing of emotion. Because what most people frequently ignore or simply overlook in narcissists is just how many negative emotions you're experiencing. Because everyone who is interacting with a narcissist is predominantly focused on the outwardly persona or the mask that the narcissist is displaying to the wider world or the general public. If you have no idea who narcissists are, let me just briefly summarize some of the key characteristics of narcissists. Narcissists do have this sense of grandiosity and omnipotence. They believe they're super powerful. They have this very strong desire to be powerful, to be successful, to be in a company of VIPs, of other successful, wealthy people. They also strive to gain as much admiration as possible. They need to be the center of attention. They need to be admired by everybody. They are frequently manipulative and exploitive in relationships, which is why anyone who is in a relationship with a narcissist is usually on the receiving end of their anger, disappointment, projection of all of the negative emotions. And people who are in a relationship with a narcissist frequently have this sensation of being objectivized in a relationship, which is horrible. Narcissists also exhibit very arrogant, haughty behavior, and they have a very strong sense of entitlement, meaning that if they want something, they want to have it immediately without having to do anything to obtain it. And they also have a very, let's say, particular way of empathizing with people. Some people say that narcissists have zero empathy, but let's say that they have an impaired sense of empathy. So these would be the typical characteristics of a narcissist. Surely you have encountered one in your lifetime, or maybe you are in a relationship with one. But moving back to the development of narcissism. Narcissism usually develops or starts developing around the age of 3. At the age of 3, children go through a normal developmental phase during which they feel grandiose and omnipotent. And why do they feel that way? Because at that age, most children are quite stable on their 2 feet and they start exploring the world. They realize that the world is much wider than just the interaction between them and the parents. And also, they have this magical thinking that things just manifest as soon as they desire them. Why? Because it's the parents who usually provide to the child everything that the child needs. And if during that phase, during that grandiose, omnipotent phase at the age of 3, this grandiosity in children is not frustrated, meaning that parents don't set limits and confront the child with the limitations of the real world, the little child starts believing that he or she is omnipotent and grandiose. And they continue behaving that way forever and ever. And later on develop true narcissism or even a narcissistic personality disorder, because the parents never frustrated the child's wishes. The other possibility is that a child is growing up in a family where everybody feels entitled, where everybody is striving for success, where only the best is good enough. And children in families like that are only loved and appreciated and made feel worthy if they excel. If they don't, if they come second best, that is not good enough. And parents criticize them, reject them, and so on and so forth. So these would be two typical avenues for the development of narcissism later on in life. Now we have two different models that can help us understand why narcissists behave and experience emotion the way that they do. We have the Kohut's deficit model and Kernberg's conflict model. In the deficit model, Kohut primarily focuses on the inadequacy of parents, meaning that the parents were not empathic enough and they weren't equipped or didn't know how or didn't want to cater to the emotional needs of the child. And when that happens, children self-soothe. And if at the tender age of 3, during the grandiose omnipotent phase, they do not receive boundaries and empathy at the same time, they just cling on to that grandiosity and omnipotence because they believe this is how emotional needs are met. Then in the conflict model, parents are usually cold, distant, aggressive, very demanding, and they put a lot of pressure on the child. And children who grow up in families like that develop some very maladaptive coping strategies. And they self-punish when they're not good enough, and they always strive to be the best, even at the expense of other people. Now, why am I telling you this? Because if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, then I'm sure that you have already experienced emotions like shame, guilt, not being good enough, feelings of inadequacy, worthlessness, you've been rejected, you've been humiliated, you've been sort of isolated. And all of these emotions and feelings are basically a projection of your narcissist. Because narcissists are terribly ill-equipped to deal with all these emotions because they always have to be stable, solid, perform, excel. It's like feelings of vulnerability, shame, fear, sadness were never allowed in a narcissist's life. So you have to understand that despite this outer persona or the mask that your narcissist is projecting in public, there is a terrified, vulnerable child hiding deep beneath. Many people overlook that or just dismiss it as an invalid avenue, but it's true. Narcissists experience a lot of underlying depression. They have a lot of shame. They fear that they will not succeed. They are terrified that people will reject them or humiliate them or shame them. That's why they engage in manipulation. That's why they crave this narcissistic fuel or the admiration and attention so much. Because if they don't get as much admiration and deference as they believe they should be getting, they feel threatened and they're afraid that they will be abandoned. And this fear of abandonment, together with the underlying sense of depression and feeling of inadequacy, is what makes narcissists behave the way they do. Because they are, in a way, protecting themselves in the most silly way by hiding these emotions and by overtly presenting themselves as something completely different, because they are terrified that somebody will see through them, that somebody will actually notice their vulnerability. And whenever your narcissist is active in an aggressive, humiliating, demeaning, you name it, way towards you, it's because he or she is at that moment experiencing a lot of shame and fear and rejection and so on and so forth. So when you are experiencing all of these negative emotions, you should always ask yourself, is this really something that belongs to me? Are these my feelings, my emotions? Am I experiencing this, or is somebody else projecting this onto me? Because once you understand that a lot of it is the result of projection, you will feel less bad about it, because you will finally understand that the narcissist's behavior has very little to do with you or your perceived inadequacy. It has everything to do with them. And if you want to understand narcissists better, then I suggest you delve a little more into the schema system, because narcissists operate according to, let's call them, different cognitive models. We all have these cognitive models according to which we operate in our minds, meaning that we believe the world is of a certain quality, type, etc. We believe emotions should be experienced in an XYZ way. We believe relationships should be like that. We believe that we are, I don't know, not good enough or ugly or unattractive or stupid. And these cognitive models, these ways of thinking, need to be replaced. And whenever narcissists engage in this preposterous behavior, they are operating from one of these, or based on one of these cognitive schemes or models of operating. And the most frequent ones are the lonely, shamed child, the impulsive child or the impulsive model, overcompensating model, the detached model, and the demanding, the critical model. Because all of these situations have been experienced by the narcissist during the upbringing, during their childhood. Either they were feeling very lonely and they were frequently shamed by their parents, and they tried to, in a way, remedy that by behaving in a certain way. Or children's wishes and desires were not frustrated, because all of our wishes and needs have to be frustrated when we are young. Not all of them all the time, but if none of our wishes and desires are ever frustrated, then we truly grow up believing that the world will cater to our every need whenever we want to, but the world does not operate that way. And children whose needs were never frustrated then become impulsive. And in a narcissist, this can be seen when they are very demanding, that they want something immediately, they want deference, they feel entitled, and so on and so forth. Then we have the overcompensating model. For example, when your narcissist is striving towards success, when they are very focused on reaching a goal, when they're very result-oriented, when they are exaggerating in everything that they are doing. That's overcompensating, because they want to prove to the world that they are not as inadequate and as worthless as their parents had made them feel all those years ago. Then we have the detached model, which is also quite frequent in narcissists. Not so much in overt narcissists, but in covert narcissists, most definitely. Because when narcissists are acting in a detached way, they are trying to avoid all of the negative emotions they're experiencing. And when that happens, they usually focus on something outside of the immediate environment where the perceived problem arose. So they either start working a lot over time, or they start behaving in erratic ways. They become addicted to something. And then there is the demanding, the critical model, when narcissists try to dominate others and are critical of others and demand a lot of others just because they fear they will not deliver what is expected of them. And these are just some of the schemes, cognitive schemes, mental schemes, call it whatever you may, according to which narcissists operate. So again, it has very little to do with you and your behavior. It has everything to do with how they are experiencing the world and emotions and what they are thinking about themselves. Because in case you haven't figured it out yet, narcissists have a very, very poor self-image, and the sense of self-worth in a narcissist is somewhere way underground. What is also typical of narcissists is that they have impaired skills when it comes to emotional self-regulation. Narcissists have extreme difficulties handling any kinds of emotions. And they have very little self-esteem, never mind what they are projecting onto the outside world, how they are presenting themselves when they're all peacocky and full of themselves. Deep down, they have a very low self-esteem. And the sense of agency is also impaired in them, meaning that when narcissists get stuck in a negative thinking or experiencing negative emotions, or when they're dealing with a problem, they believe they don't have the agency, that is the capacity, the skill, or whatever else needed to resolve the situation. And whenever they are acting in a self-protective way, they frequently exhibit aggressive behavior because, sometimes the best defense is offense, and that is the modus operandi of many narcissists. So this would be it for this video. I hope I haven't swamped you with too many technical and theoretical information. If you would like to explore narcissism in a workshop, then you can certainly apply to one of the many workshops I organize. If you want to have a one-on-one session to discuss your problems with narcissists, or if you yourself are a narcissist and would like to change some of your characteristics, don't hesitate and send me an email. And in any case, you're more than welcome to read my book, My Narcissist and I, How to Find Happiness. It is available on Amazon. I'm wishing you all a lovely day and talk to you soon. Bye.